Hello, hello, hello. All right, I'm pretty sure that sounds good. My hair's a tangled mess, but that's okay. It's April 2nd. Yep, April 2nd. Yeah, April 2nd. We're just going to talk about the stuff from March. But yeah, March, honestly, pretty good month overall. It was my birthday month. Had a birthday. I think I'll do a whole separate thing just talking about it. Turned 25 and it's been interesting. Yeah. But I guess I'll save it for something else. Let's just get into talking about the stuff from March. The notepad, honestly, almost filled with it. There's probably like 2 more months left in this and it's over. But anyways, yeah, March, shout out because it's Women's Month, and then also on the 31st, a few days ago now, Tuesday, it was Trans Visibility Day, which is pretty cool. So shout out to those things. So yeah, this month, watch, it's weird, I watched like a small handful of things, and all of them were just, I mean, some of them good, definitely, and then some of them were just kind of like, you know. Yeah, because I mean, kicking it off, FNAF 2. Not a good movie. Not a good movie. It's weird because I think people kind of shit on the first one a little unfairly. I think I was like one of the only people that was like, no, it's okay, you know. I was doing that a lot. I was running defense on it for some fucking reason, but that's because that one I truly don't think it's as bad as people were making it out to be. Like, people were making it sound like it was this fucking movie. The fucking second one fucking sucks. And I hate to say the F word that many times in a row, but like, god damn, this shit fucking sucks. I wasn't very entertained, bored, borderline. I almost took a nap, and then the animatronics started popping out, and I'm like, okay, this is maybe getting decent. But it's like literally just like slop. I don't know. Yeah, because I was watching it with my brother, and we were going through the same motions. I think there was one part, maybe like 20-30 minutes in, where we were like about to go to sleep, but that's like the first time they like go into the pizzeria place again, and the marionette one pops out. So that's kind of interesting, but man, there's like a complete lack of, well, there's a complete lack of anything, but there's a complete lack of scares in general, and the scariest thing is the marionette thing, and they don't really spend too much time on it, and then at certain points it becomes kind of corny in the way it's supposed to be scary, like creepypasta type shit, sort of scary, you know what I mean? Because like the marionette has its own like puppetry, but in this, like, they make it possess people, and then like the people will just kind of have like makeup that like makes them look like a mime or something. That sucks, because I think the puppet is pretty cool, and what they end up doing with the puppet I think is nice. Like, they make it really like gangly, and you know, despite it being like really skinny, it's rather large. Like I think the first time it pops up and like the girl is like messing with the music box, and you know, the present thing is opening up for the marionette to come out, it's like super imposing, and it looks like it's just like levitating above the person before it like attacks them. So I thought that was cool, but then yeah, it just like possesses the person, and the person like moves around like they're a puppet, but then also like it's like the fucking Conjuring, and like they're trying to do like the kind of contortionist like sort of movements with it, like crawling around and stuff like that. Super, again, just like kind of played out in my opinion. And I mean, I've said it before, but I, you know, exorcism type stuff like that isn't really the most interesting stuff to me, especially for horror. So sorry, FNAF, gonna have to knock off 3,000 points for that one. Yeah, but then everything else, I guess, like the personal drama, you know, with Josh Hutcherson's character, and the main girl, and like her trauma, like around her father, really isn't interesting. And that's another thing too, kind of in the same way the first one had troubles, where like nobody kind of talks like real people. Like the opening scene, it's the girl seeing like a kidnapping going on at the pizzeria, because this is all like flashback setup stuff. but she sees a kidnapping going on at the pizzeria, and like she's trying to tell the adults, she's like oh, like something bad's happening, and all the adults are just like, oh, shut up, kid, get out of here. Like what the fuck? like they don't give a shit about this kid, or it's just like very quick. There you go. Very quick to just be like, hey kid, where's your parents? Go. Like, hey kid, like the adults are talking. You're not supposed to talk when the adults are talking. Just shit like that. And again, like that's another horror trope too. Think like Nightmare on Elm Street, right? You know, whenever adults aren't the ones helping the kids, it's meant to make, you know, the kids feel powerless, and by that way make you as the audience feel powerless, or at least like a bit more empathetic, because you know the characters that you're trying to root for don't have any power, right? A little more like that, I think. There we go, that's better. I'm more in frame, like I'm trying to be Mr. Robot. There you go. Yeah, so again, like I understand why they're doing it, or at least like the intention for why they're doing it, but it just comes off as like really lame. I don't know, or like at least like bizarre in a sense. But yeah, like more dialogue stuff too between Josh Hutcherson's character and the police officer. They have like no chemistry between each other, but like they're trying to start like dating kinda, and then the most bizarre twist of all time with the fucking other, again, like I don't know FNAF lore, so I mean maybe I'm just stupid, but there's like a twist brother. I'm spoiling this shit, by the way. I don't really care. I don't think anybody gives two shits about FNAF 2. But yeah, the other, what do you call them? Security guard, night patrol guy. He ends up being, I don't know, like the brother of the cop lady. So by that, the son of Matthew Lillard's character. I don't know, but that's the thing too, because I mean, like a lot of the movie is sort of centered around the police officer woman and like her trauma with her dad, Matthew Lillard, and I feel like that stuff was like halfway interesting. I mean, like they're definitely trying to do something with it, especially when she's having these nightmares, and you know she keeps seeing them in places, or you know, like the nightmare specifically she's seeing herself as she's younger, and she's kind of transporting between these different eras of her life when she was younger, and she's like always running away and hiding, you know, feeling powerless, and then you know now with a more developed mind she's able to kind of like fight back a little bit. It's sort of interesting, and I mean again, like they were trying to do something with it, but it's just like not enough, and it gets completely lost with like all the other shit that ends up happening. And then of course with the sister character, her name's Abby, right? With the sister character Abby, you know, like her dealing with the loss of her friends, you know, because her friends were the animatronics / ghost kids from the first movie. So she's trying to kind of rebuild that relationship because she still can't really make actual human friends. And then, you know, she gets like tricked by the marionette or whatever, because the marionette wants revenge on all the adults that didn't help her when she was a kid. Again, it's like really easy to track, and like when I explain it, it's like, oh yeah, pretty straightforward. I mean, it is pretty straightforward, but it's like so simple. It's so simple that they try to make it complex, and by doing that, they sort of like ruin the whole thing. And again, it's not even a situation where like too much is going on. Like everybody kind of has a place, and then obviously with like Josh Hutcherson's character, his name is Mike, right? Pretty sure it's Mike. Yeah, but with Mike, he's he's basically just like trying to live a normal life, and he's trying to be normal for his sister, and he's trying to be normal for his love interest, you know what I mean? But both of them are just so caught up on completely different things, you know? Okay, so maybe I'm making it sound more interesting than it actually is, but when you watch the movie, it's just like, what the fuck? And I mean, I guess that's the best way I can describe it at this point. You get some animatronic action, animatronic action, and man, it's like at times it's like really underwhelming. Like the confrontation at the very end, where like all the new animatronics come out, and you know they have the main characters like pinned, and it's like, oh man, something bad's gonna happen, but then, oh wait, fucking Freddy comes out, fucking takes him down. Fucking Bonnie comes out, takes him down. Chica comes out, takes it. Yeah, but they just like instantly defeat these new characters, and it's like super underwhelming. But again, like the marionette thing was the most interesting. There's a part where like Abby gets possessed, and you know she has like the creepypasta makeup on her, and then she gets unpossessed. I forgot how. But like whenever the marionette like leaves her body, oh, they play the music box. Whenever the marionette leaves her body, it sort of like slinks and like slithers away, and I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. And then man, they fucking want a part 3 because it fucking ends on sequel bait, and that shit pissed me off. I'm not even gonna lie. I was like, all of that, and then that. Yeah, fuck this movie. I don't know. Fuck. No, but I still recommend it if you had somebody to talk to during it. I mean, you know, just to like dissect it, because that's kind of what me and my brother ended up doing. We just like, you know, like aside from the moment where we almost took a nap, we were just sort of talking about stuff. But yeah, Tron Ares. Finally did my rewatch of Tron Ares. I like it personally. I don't know if I've talked about it at length in video, because I mean, I think the only thing I said whenever it came out was that I took a nap because I got drunk in the theater. Or not drunk in the theater, I was drunk beforehand. Well, slightly drunk. I'm not making myself sound very good. I was drinking beforehand because I was waiting around for a long time to go to the theater, and then we finally got to the theater, and I kind of had a bit of a buzz, and when I have a buzz like that, and I'm not like drinking anymore or doing anything specifically, I end up just like getting very tired and falling asleep. And the movie is quite slow in places, but so that's kind of why I took a nap. But whenever I was watching it here at home, I mean, like it was very engaging, obviously, if you are willing to just like sit down and enjoy it, which I was more willing to do as a way to like redeem myself a little bit, but then also just because like I do like the world of Tron. I think I said that definitely back in October or whenever I talked about Tron Ares. No, but like a lot of the stuff like regarding AI, like I think the main thing that sort of interested me was this conversation. You know, obviously like they still want to go into the grid and like look for answers in the grid that can help them out in the real world, and that's what they end up doing with that technology that can what's the term? They have a term in the Tron world, like whenever they like scan something and bring it. I've completely forgotten it now. I'm blanking on it. But like whenever they're doing that and like bringing like objects into the real world, like obviously NCOM has their own version of it, since they kind of invented the technology, I guess, in the older Tron movies in order to get to Tron in the first place, or, you know, get into the world of Tron in the first place, into the grid. But then the rival company, what's it called? I don't know. But the rival company, they have their own version of it as well, which, you know, they're the ones that make the Ares program, which is Jared Leto's character. But then it's interesting because obviously Ares as a program is just meant to enact the will of the user, which is like the main bad guy from the rival company. But the conversation that comes up, which I was like trying to bring up earlier before I got into the technical aspects of the movie, but the concept that I found most interesting was with AI, at least, and the things that they can find within the grid. Obviously, there's that fear of, oh, what if it's evil? And you don't stop to consider, well, it's like, okay, but what if it's good? You know, what if this thing that's created from the grid, that's like way more intelligent than any of us, what if it happens to be good and it wants to help us? And, you know, it being sort of like what's the word? Beneficent, merciful, kind, right? What if it was those things? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like a lot of movies surrounding AI or like technology, it always ends up being like, you know, this is me making a complicated point simple, but it always ends up being sort of, oh, technology bad, right? I mean, like, you see all the shit now with like phones, like conversations surrounding phones, social media, the use of AI, sort of like data mining people, right? And it's like, oh man, like technology sounds like the worst, but technology has very useful applications, and with this movie specifically, it is talking about artificial intelligence being able to come to us as like helpers, essentially, which is sort of what the original idea of like programs were in like early Tron, like original Tron and then Tron Legacy. Like the whole point of the programs were like, you know, there to like help users, and programs like being of service to users, sort of. Obviously there were some rogue programs and whatnot. Dillinger, there you go, that's the name of the villain. But yeah, so in this one, like Ares, I mean, it's weird because it's basically just like an AI or like a program like discovering a type of humanity through watching humanity. I mean, it's as simple as that, right? Like again, with the kind of tropes regarding AI, like think like Terminator or something like that, right? It's always like, oh, hey AI, I want you to build the perfect system. This is going back to like Tron Legacy, right? But hey, program, I want you to build the perfect system. And it's like, okay, well, let me look at all the data ever because I'm a program and I can do that like instantaneously. Okay, a lot of bad stuff happens, but all the bad stuff seems to happen because of humans. Biologic, getting rid of humans makes the perfect system, which is kind of the flawed logic of Clue. And that's what Flynn is trying to get Clue to realize by the end of the movie, is that yes, humans are flawed, but they have this capacity for change and creation and all that, and all those sorts of things are very beautiful. And that's basically what Ares like figures out very early on, just by observing people, you know what I mean? I think it would have been very easy for him to just be a program, sort of like Athena, right? And that's the tragedy around Athena too, is that, you know, they're both programs and they both have very similar programming, but one is able to see a kindness and humanity, and the other one is just strictly about their programming. And they never come to that realization, despite having a kind of humanity to themselves, and maybe even like a fear of death at the end of it, with Athena at least, and her dying. She seems rather scared. But that's also a bit earlier on too, whenever Ares is more of like a proper program, just following the programming, and he's trying to capture the I'm blanking on her name. On the main protagonist, effectively the CEO of MCOM, or like the current CEO of MCOM. But with her and like the tragic loss of her sister, and them also trying to find answers within the grid. Ares kind of latches onto her, and then even in that moment, whenever Ares is trying to capture her, and Ares, like, time is expiring and he's about to die, there's a fear in him, but what he detects and what kind of like throws him off is that she's scared for him, and again, it plays into the track empathetic response, but she has like a response to him, despite him like chasing her around trying to kill her effectively. She still feels a kind of sadness and worry for him as he's dying, and as like a robotic thing that Ares is, it's weird, you know what I mean? You see all these things as very like singular, and then you come to learn them to be very complex, you know what I mean? Like, it'd be hard to be intelligent and not also have a sort of emotional intelligence to yourself. But yeah, so all of that stuff, man, I liked greatly. And I mean, like, whenever I think about people talking about this movie, I feel like people will just kind of say it's boring and whatever. But I mean, again, like, because I mean, like, even with FNAF, it's like, yeah, I'm saying it's bad, but as I start dissecting it, it's like, okay, maybe it's interesting. And then, you could tell me, oh, it's not that deep, but even with bad stuff, there's always kind of a message there. There's always something that someone is trying to say, and maybe they don't say it the best, or with movie stuff, maybe there's just like a lot of hands on the there's a lot of hands on the final creation, you know what I mean? A lot of cooks in the kitchen, as it were. But as you start, like picking, the dish apart, right? You find all these like little ingredients to it, and those things, eventually form the whole. Yeah, whether or not they make the whole good, to be decided. But the little bits and pieces are what I find interesting typically. And even in something like this, or again like FNAF, there's always something to pick apart and something that I find particularly interesting. But again, I'm kind of biased as well, just because like on the whole, I enjoy the movie. I enjoy all the stuff it makes me think about. On a visual level, very good looking movie, obviously. Great soundtrack, of course. I blushed about the soundtrack before, so I won't do so again. But shout out to Nine Inch Nails for a great soundtrack. And then, of course, last month I mentioned the Divergence, the sort of like special edition, not a special edition, but the kind of extended version with like remixes and stuff like that. And also just like extra tracks. Good stuff. I mean, again, like even if you don't like the movie, for like what it's trying to say, you can at least give it props for looking good, and props for having a fucking kick-ass soundtrack. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about Tron Ares. Personally, I like it, but I watched Undertone, new horror movie, new-ish. This one revolving around sound, which is kind of its what's the word? I guess like gimmick. There's another word I'm looking for. Something specific about it that makes it different from other things, which I guess is what gimmick means. But gimmick sounds sort of negative. You know what I mean? Like oh, this movie's only good because of its gimmick type thing, right? No, I think this movie has a bit going for it. There's parts where I think somebody could get easily lost with, especially all of this like investigative stuff they're trying to do. The kind of like short time jumps and whatnot. Maybe even stuff that isn't necessarily pertained to the plot. Like there's a huge emphasis very early on about the main character and her sort of like alcoholism and her like ex-boyfriend or whatever. And I feel like they were really trying to develop something on that. And I think the alcoholism stuff is the only thing that like travels throughout the story. And then there's a lot of stuff that's like kind of difficult for me to talk about because I don't really understand it all that well. Mainly stuff about like birth, because that's a huge part of the movie as well. She's supposed to be having a baby, and this is like a demon ghost that tries to like haunt people who are having children, because like the demon ghost itself is some kind of figure that like steals children, something like that. I saw this like pretty early on in the month, so I'm trying to remember, or I'm trying to recollect a little bit, but I think I'm pretty much on par with it. Yeah, so I mean, at least with like the alcoholism stuff, I mean, she's sort of using it as a way to, well, I mean, essentially have what's the word? I mean, well, like effectively like an abortion type of thing, right? I know there's like a specific word for it whenever you like purposefully do harmful things to your body to, you know, make sure the baby isn't born. But she's basically doing that with the alcohol, and then it's also like a cope because her life is like quite tragic at the moment. Again, like ex-boyfriend thing, but then also like her mother is like sick or something, and she's basically like abandoning like her whole life just to take care of her mother now. There's a large like religious aspect surrounding the movie too that I felt required a bit of homework. Again, mainly because like they're talking about different like saints and spirits and whatnot, pertaining to, I guess, like Christian or Catholic mythology. But that plays like a huge role throughout the whole movie. Other things that play a huge role: sound, visual stuff as well. I mean, the sound especially. I mean, the movie's called Undertone, and it's about like finding like frequencies in audio and whatnot, as they're trying to like uncover these like audio files that they're sent, because they run like a podcast, like creepypasta podcast thing. And then, you know, that's how they're introduced to this like demon to begin with. So a lot to do with audio, and it's weird like watching this in theaters. I think it was pretty good because, again, it's also dark as well. And, you know, despite this movie being set in one location, they do a lot with the space. Similar to how, like, Iron Lung does a lot with the space, right? With the limited space. Oh. I was leaning too hard on the thing. Yeah, but with the same way like Iron Lung does a lot with the limited space, this movie does a lot with the limited space. Because I mean, they're just in the house for the whole movie. Sometimes they're upstairs in the bedroom, and for the most part, they're downstairs in like the living areas. Yeah, so it does a lot with the space. Obviously, it's always very dark throughout the movie, so it's good watching it in a theater for that. And then sound quality stuff too. The sound quality in my theater was pretty good. So I was able to get into it like that. But again, going back to like the sort of look of the movie and like, you know, dealing with like the darkness aspects of it, there's a lot of times where they'll use lighting, and I don't know the intention behind it, but they'll use a lot of like blue lighting, and they'll use a lot of red colored lighting. I don't know exactly what that means, if I'm being completely honest. Like there's a whole scene where she's trying to go to sleep, and she's listening to some like ASMR thing, and then, you know, it becomes like tainted and distorted by the demon. But whenever she's just there laying down, it kind of like cuts between two different shots. And I think the shot where it's like looking down on her, just like laying in the bed, it's like very blue coded, but then when it's like capturing her on her side, it's very red coded. And they do that in different spots throughout the movie as well, where like certain areas of where she is are like lit to be blue, and then other areas are like lit to be red. I'm unsure what that means entirely, but I thought it was visually interesting. There's a dream sequence at one point where again, since it's like about like demons, spirits, I guess like witches specifically, there's a reference to the haunting hour. So she has a dream, and the clock stops on the haunting hour. What is it, like 2 a.m., 3 a.m.? I'm trying to remember, but like, because like they literally cut to a clock, and the clock like stops at the time, and like the seconds hand is like going further, but then it reverses back onto the witching hour. So I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, witching hour, got it. So I mean, if you're unfamiliar with that, then you're unfamiliar with it, but that's what it's supposed to represent. And then of course, like these minor hauntings like start happening like within her dream. Very cool, honestly. And I think that bit that I'm thinking of, it reminded me very much of like a Sam Raimi-ism type thing, Evil Dead sort of like a tracking shot where it's like coming from her when she's upstairs, and it's like zooming down the curved stairway, and it like goes like straight for the clock. Very interesting. I thought sort of not out of place necessarily, but just sort of weird. I'm like, oh, okay, we're doing something like weirdly interesting with the camera, because a lot of the camera shots in the movie are quite static. You know, just like looking on her at her desk. Maybe have a shot where, you know, you're like the camera of the thing just looking straight at her while she's like typing around. Shots from like the exact side, so you're just getting profile both ways. Yeah, but I mean, like, but that's what I mean, right? Like super simple, but they're just making the most of the space with the camera angles. And then last like 10-15 minutes, actually quite tense, honestly. I remember I was just like sort of like tensed up. I was doing my my posture thing with my leg up kind of like this, and I'm like holding myself sort of close. But no, quite tense and all that stuff I thought was very good. So again, enjoyable, worth rewatching. I mean maybe at some point, but you know, just pretty good, okay, even. But no, still enjoyable. Yeah, still enjoyable, no doubt. Again, like it's gimmick regarding sound, like it almost makes me want to rewatch it at home, but with like good headphones, right? And get jump scared every 2 fucking seconds, which I'm surprised. Like, I think they only do like a jump scare with sound. Well, all jump scares tend to have like the sharp sound to like alert your senses. You know what I mean? That's what makes you jump. But you know, specifically with this and the way they do it, they'll have like a very like high pitched noise like play out, or like a sort of like audio error, and it just like clips the mic, sort of thing. That happens twice, I believe. The first time it happened, it kind of got me, and the second time I was like, okay, you know, just sort of rolled my eyes. But no, still pretty good. Another movie, Bestsellers. Michael Caine, Aubrey Plaza, and supporting character, the girl from Scott Pilgrim, Knives Chow. She's in it. When I saw her, I was like, she's looking familiar. And I was like, oh yeah, that's Knives. So pretty funny. No, but bestsellers actually quite decent. One of those sort of like just like drama, slice of life type movies, which I usually quite enjoy, and I enjoyed this one. I obviously like Michael Caine a lot, and I like Aubrey Plaza, and the story was quite nice too, because it's about like a writer who's sort of washed up. You see how I got confused? Too many W's. Writer, water, washed, water washed writer. There you go. Yeah, so it's about a writer. Obviously, I enjoyed writing, so it kind of got to me. But most importantly, it's about Aubrey Plaza's character and her position as a publisher. So you kind of get this like insight on like what it means to like publish and stuff. She's like taking over her dad's like publishing empire, so she's a bit of like a nepo kid. But the business is struggling because she hasn't had much success since she's taken over. So she's looking for somebody to publish so she can make the money to save the business. And she turns to Michael Caine's character, who was a very accomplished writer within their publishing firm. So she's trying to enlist his help so he can make a new book, which they can sell so they can make the money to save the business. So quite simple on that, but obviously with Michael Caine's character, this is like the first book he made was like quite grabbing like on the audience as a whole, right? And you know, like it was very good, to say it simply. But that kind of made him this like bestseller. But then after that, he just like sort of went away. You know what I mean? He becomes this like one-hit wonder in a sense. And initially, I was sort of thinking like, oh, okay, like maybe he's just like kind of like a hack a little bit. You know what I mean? Like he had that one hit, that one just really good idea. And he's like struggling with the prospect of never making like anything else good ever again, sort of thing. But then it's partially that, but then it becomes like a lot deeper, because as they're trying to do like the touring and whatnot for the book, to promote the book, more information about his life slips through. This, you know, the stuff about his wife and what the book is supposed to be about. And then it obviously becomes very like quick, and in my mind at least, that the book is lightly autobiographical, not audio, autobiographical in some sense. It's about the loss of his wife, in a lot of ways, and it was quite striking and even a bit profound in that way, to create something about, you know, the loss of another person, and you know, to still feel in a lot of ways that it's not good enough, and struggling with the idea of, you know, going on, and you know, being alone, and I thought all that was good. But again, that's like just about the book and the movie. The movie itself touches on parts of that, but then it also touches on a kind of unhappiness that both of the characters have, or a type of unsatisfaction with themselves and their work. Obviously with Michael Caine's character, it's just like he can't write anymore because his wife was essentially his muse and the purpose for his writing. And you know, in reality, he kind of attributes his like writing talent like to his wife, and you know, to him, like his wife was the writer, because his wife was like his editor, and the wife understood him very deeply and steered him in a direction to be better, and without her he feels kind of lost. And then Aubrey Plaza is, you know, obviously struggling with the idea of living up to her dad and what he built, and it obviously becomes a twist at the very end, because the dad is actually a hack, and never had any real talent, because obviously Michael Caine and his wife were the talent that made the publishing house as good as it was. You know, so then Aubrey Plaza's character kind of struggles with that. I mean, it's weird, like that idea is kind of like passed up very quickly in my opinion, because it happens towards the end, maybe like last 30 minutes or so. And she doesn't really linger on that, because then she shifts into having like Michael Caine be this kind of father figure to her. But that's because Aubrey Plaza, like her character is rather smart, and she can be a very good editor, and she can be very good at her job, but she feels sort of like cornered and trapped by the expectations of other people. And then obviously with the business going down, she's just incredibly desperate and like kind of on edge to save it. And I mean, initially her and Michael Caine don't really get along, but they eventually kind of grow this respect for one another. But I mean, yeah, like, I'm saying all this and I'm basically just like summarizing the plot more or less and trying to get in depth with the characters. But yeah, I think this movie has a lot to offer, honestly. I think the only complaint I would have is just this is a very weird nitpick for me, but like I know for a fact it's kind of a me thing, but sex scenes in movies, again, like this one doesn't go like too far or anything like that, so it doesn't have anything to do with that. But the fact that you put sex scenes in something, it always seems misplaced for a type of shock value, or like just to really earn your R rating for whatever reason you want the R rating. Yeah, because I mean, like the sex scene pops up because obviously Aubrey Plaza's character is like very like high strung. She's like desperate to save her business, and like Michael Caine isn't really helping her out with like the tour and the promotion of the book. So of course she's very stressed out, and like how do you relieve stress? But one, it kind of comes like very fast. Haha. No, like the scene itself pops up very fast, and it just seems like egregious in a sense. It's like, okay, like the pacing was like a bit slow, so you kind of just like need to throw something in there to like keep people invested. But I mean, I don't know, stuff like that always just like disinterests me, especially in movies when like it's very obvious to like know what the purpose is. I don't know, because like then I try to think about like good sex scenes that sort of like add something to the plot. You'll think, I mean, the two examples I always seem to have on hand are like Blade Runner and Her, right? Like I guess sex, I mean, this is gonna be really cringy of me to say, but obviously sex is about like a type of intimacy. And I feel like whenever a lot of movies try to use it, they use it for the more like sexual and like lustful aspects of it, things to seem like a bit edgy in a weird way, if any of that makes sense. So yeah, them throwing it in here just to kind of throw it in is a bit upsetting, because I was liking everything else and then I liked everything after the fact. But yeah, so that's probably the main like nitpick I have. Again, like very nitpicky. But then just other things too. I feel like certain things get kind of lost at some points. Again, like the father being a fraud type of thing, I think ends up being a bit lost. But it does end on a rather like hopeful note, which is sort of nice, considering like the whole movie was quite dramatic and like somber in some ways. But no, I enjoyed it quite a lot. Probably worth a rewatch at some point with a different set of people, but whatever. Watched Project Hail Mary. Enjoyable, honestly, very enjoyable. It was funny because obviously it's Phil Lord and the other one, Lord and Miller. There you go. Yeah, Lord and Miller. So, I'm thinking about all the other stuff they've done. And what's the thing with them? It's like they're more so producers, right? Something like that. They're more like idea people, if anything. No. But I think this one they directed it, but they still have like their whole like kind of crew behind them. Like I think Amy Pascal still helped with the production as well. And then they had that one guy do the music, the same guy who does the music for the Spider-Verse stuff. Yeah, no, but I thought this movie was very good. And I mean, again, like I feel like people, like whenever I like see things on it, they're talking about the kind of like, comedy or just like the space stuff and how good the space stuff looks, which the space stuff does look very good. So like colorful and abstract and interesting and beautiful. But then, at times like a bit alien, especially with the alien in this being like sort of different from what we've seen before. But great stuff. But then also, because I know it's based off a book, right? And the book is like, there's a lot of like hard science there, which is sort of interesting. So I feel like if you're interested in like space specifically and interested in science, like this would be like a really great movie. Me personally, I don't know I was gonna pat myself on the back there still. I was gonna say I don't know too much. No, I don't know shit, honestly. I really don't know a single fucking thing, but they do make the science like very easy to follow for the most part, which is nice for dummies like me. But no, intensely enjoyable, all that stuff. And then the thing I don't really see people talking about a lot, unfortunately, is the sort of character arc of Ryan Gosling's character. I mean, it's weird because I feel like when people talk about Ryan Gosling, they're like, oh, he's so one note. You know what I mean? He either plays like the stoic guy. He either plays the stoic guy or just like the handsome guy. You know what I mean? The handsome, funny guy. You know. But he has a real range. I mean, like, I don't know if I've ever said it before, but one of my favorite movies of him in it is Lars and the Real Girl, and he's playing. I mean, like, kind of stoic still, yeah, but sort of this very kind of like bizarre, emotionally intense person, but also emotionally immature because of some like trauma he's gone through. But also quite like a sad character in some ways. But then funny in his like kind of awkwardness. Or even then something like in Nice Guys, right? Where he's a bit more like outwardly comedic and sort of loud. And he's very good in that too. Or even sort of like in Fall Guy with the sort of like nonchalantness of his humor. And then in this too, he's not even like especially funny, but he is just incredibly likable. And I don't think it's just, well, obviously, like, I feel like Ryan Gosling kind of adds a layer to it. Again, like, handsome dude. But I don't think it has anything to do with him just being a likable person, right? And then again, I think it's just a testament to the writing of the character at that point. So shout out to the writer of the book. But no, I feel like there's like this intense drama with his character and him trying to, like, obviously come to terms with like how he got in this situation to begin with, because in the beginning, you know, because like the movie is like sort of told through flashbacks almost to like how he got into space and like why he's doing all this stuff to begin with. But you know, with him for so long, it was kind of just like a running away thing. He's very uncertain about his direction in life. You know, so he becomes a teacher. There's that quote, and I don't know who said it off the top of my head. I'm gonna butcher it, but you know, they say those who can't do teach, right? Which is sort of like an insult to teachers, because like teachers go through a lot, and I have a lot of respect for teachers, but that's kind of what Ryan Gosling has like found himself in the situation of, you know what I mean? Like at a time he was trying to really like push boundaries in the field of science, or at least in the field of science that he was working in, but he didn't get the I guess like the kind of recognition that he was looking for, and you know, in this like emotion of defeat, he just sort of like closed himself off. He struggled with this like relationship that they bring up. He had like a partner at one point, and you know, like the partner just says like, oh, he doesn't have any like drive anymore, you know, pun intended, because Ryan Gosling was also in the movie Drive. Anyways, yeah, but he has no like motivation necessarily. He like, there's no like anything to him. But then of course he has this call to action, and the whole time, even still, he's trying to run away from it. He still doesn't feel good enough, despite being kind of handpicked for this assignment. And you know, like there's a moment early on where he has like that second, like, you know, sense of defeat as well, when he realizes that all the stuff that he was doing back then, like in the scientific field that he was rather proud of but was dismissed on, actually ends up being wrong anyways. You know what I mean? So it's a thing. It's like, well, you know, I'm smart enough and I'm good enough to be here, but I was so good that I proved myself wrong. So there's a sense of defeat in that, because you know, this whole time I'm thinking that I ran away for a reason, and you know, kind of like running away with this idea that I was in the right and everybody else was wrong. But then of course turns out I was wrong the whole time, and everybody was right for thinking I was wrong. So quite tragic in that sense, but he still finds a way to keep going with it. You know what I mean? Like, because at that point he's invested, right? He sees the issue, he finds it interesting, and he sees how it can help a lot of people. So he finds this motivation again to keep living his life, essentially. And then obviously the whole time it's like a mystery. It's like, okay, well, how did he end up on this mission? Because he's not supposed to be on the mission. He's just the scientist doing the science behind the mission, and then another team is going to go off and actually execute the plan. But then again, at the very end, the moment of tragedy, when like the test kind of goes wrong. Spoilers. When the test goes wrong, and they're all kind of scrambling to figure out how they're still going to go through with the plan, because the plan needs to be done. And they say, well, I mean, like you're just going to have to go with the backup team. Like, it's as simple as that. And then of course then he understands the weight of the situation, but he runs away, even though he's probably one of the only people like in the world who can do it, right? So I guess what's the, yeah, because I mean, like I use the term call to action, but that's basically the term for, in a story, the moment that comes to the protagonist that makes the protagonist go on their journey. But I guess this would be like the avoidance of the call to action, right? And that's kind of what his character hinges on. But by the end of it, sort of overcomes and finds a sense of pride within himself to have been able to do this to begin with. You know what I mean? To feel like he's actually worth something. And in places, it's honestly quite emotional. But then also inspiring. But very, very good movie. And honestly, I think I want to check in with the soundtrack a little bit, because I was hearing pieces of it, and at first I thought like, oh, is this like another Sun Lux thing? I don't know. It's not. It's the guy with the Spider-Verse stuff, who's also very good too. But I remember the music being quite nice. But again, paired with the visuals, I think that's also what sort of like elevates it a bit. But yeah, so I'll probably have to check that out at some point. But yeah, that was Project Hail Mary, very good. Nobody 2, not very good. This is like what I would call dad action, right? It's something that your dad puts on and then falls asleep towards the beginning, and then wakes up for the final action sequence at the very end. That term is actually coming from somebody else entirely, but I forgot who. So I'm not taking credit for it. I'm just saying that that's what I've always referred to like a type of movie like this as. Think like Equalizer and shit like that too, right? Again, too, with a movie like Equalizer, but then also like this one specifically, since it's about like an older male figure, that's also why you could call it dad action, because like obviously like Rob Odenkirk, he's like what, like fucking 80? No, he's like 50s-ish, maybe? I don't know. But he's definitely on the older side, so probably about the same age as like a bunch of dads who probably have these fantasies of like being a bit of an action hero, or just like doing something like interesting. No offense to all the dads out there who lead uninteresting lives, but you know what I mean. I feel like sometimes it's nice to daydream and fantasize about living a more interesting life in some ways. But then of course we live vicariously through movies and whatnot. But yeah, so dad action. But yeah, this is like dad action, like nobody's business dad action. Very bland all the way through. I mean, of course the action is very good, but that's about it really. I didn't think too much on this, like, and if I was gonna watch an action movie and be properly invested, I'd watch like a handful of other things before I would watch this. I just kind of watched it because I wanted to watch something new. But I mean, like, speaking on action, that's actually good and rewatchable to me at least. I rewatched It Man. I don't have it on my list. I'm just talking about it very loosely. But yeah, rewatched It Man again. Very good. I think I briefly mentioned it at one point. Action, of course, very good. But then also like some of the like more like political commentary within it. Obviously it's about like the Japanese occupation on China, but then this sort of commentary on like pride for your people, and I guess just like being loyal and true to a cause, right? Obviously with Ip Man and like that's Donnie Yen's character. He's very like loyal to like the people in his town, and then of course the town itself. He has a lot of pride for it. But then as the movie goes on and the Japan occupation takes place, there's people that lived in the town that kind of like like swap sides pretty much, right? He had a friend at one point who becomes like a translator for the Japanese, basically just to like save himself, just to make himself some money, and to just like be in the good graces of the Japanese people, so he isn't as hurt or like looked down upon in the same way that all the villagers are looked down upon. You know what I mean? But of course, that's a very backwards way of looking at it, right? Because at the end of the day, the Japanese people still don't fucking respect him. You know what I mean? Like he's just a tool to them, essentially. Like a tool for their conquest. And then there's another character, a younger character, who's like kind of trying to make a name for himself. He's like a bit of a gangster wannabe. Or I guess there's two of them, right? One that isn't from the village but kind of comes in to like take over. So there's already that sort of like invasionist occupation mindset embedded there. But it's coming from their own people, right? And that's sort of like the tragedy in it. And then that character comes back, but then also with the character from the village, who was struggling as well with everybody else, but sees it as, well, I'm also Chinese, but I don't want to be hurt in the same way these other Chinese people are, so I'm gonna take what little they have to elevate myself a bit. And again, that's like the wrong way of looking at it, because obviously the enemy at the end of the day to them was were the Japanese, and if they were all able to like unite in some way, they could probably fight against it. But that's just like a message that I've always liked in revolutionary stuff, the like strength in numbers kind of thing. But then it's also a thing too where like everybody just needs to believe it, right? You just need to believe in something. So I still thought the movie was very good on rewatch. And again, like the only reason why I brought it up is because like the action is very good, but then the story is also really good. And nobody to the action is good and the story's whatever. Shout out to RZA of Wu-Tang Clan for being in this movie and having a fun action sequence. Anyways, watched Air Doll, a Japanese movie about a blow-up sex doll finding humanity. Interesting movie, thought-provoking in some ways. Not even in some ways, a lot of ways, honestly. I guess like the way lonely people view, well, I mean, with like her being an air doll, I guess like viewing objects, but then also viewing women as a whole, right? I feel like there's a lot of sadness within the movie regarding women. I mean, specifically with the main character, her being an air doll. She has this reoccurring line where, I mean, she says that she's like, oh, well, like I'm just like a sex doll, I'm an air doll, and I'm used for the pleasure of men. So I guess just sort of like viewing yourself in a very simplistic kind of way, but then at the same time being intensely complex as like an individual, right? And having a kind of like autonomy and individuality, but that not being seen by others around you, or at least not being appreciated or respected. Because then there's other woman characters in the movie as well that, get these like minor like lenses on them. There's like a kind of older woman who's like doing a lot of like beauty routine stuff, like, to make herself look a bit more younger, to like appeal to men, which, is a bad thing, obviously. You know what I mean? Like you shouldn't, shout out to Yul, but don't be too hard on your own beauty, right? But obviously the only reason why people, I think, stress a lot about it, and I mean, even myself, I won't lie, stress about like, their physical features, is because like they do want to appeal to people, whether it be for like romantic interests or like a romantic relationship. But I mean, a lot of the time too, it's just for a sense of connection and company, attention, even if you want to look at it kind of selfishly. But yeah, so one of the women that they focus on is this older woman, and a handful of the scenes she has, I mean, like she's doing like a lot of these like face care routines, and then there's one moment specifically that's rather sad, and it's a moment where I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the main character's name, but the air doll, where she is essentially just like reciting a poem, and the poem has like a tinge of loneliness about it, and sadness in a way, but it cuts over to this woman, and she works like a desk job. What do you call them? not secretaries per se, but you know, like basically like the person, like if you're going to a hotel, right, they're like the person that greets you. She's working as one of those, but she's working alongside another woman who's like a lot younger than her, prettier than her, and she's getting all this attention from men, and you know, she's like sitting on the side, and of course she's trying to look happy because like that's her job, but there's a kind of like sadness in her eyes, and like the way she like glances over at them having this conversation, you know, where like she sort of like wishes like she kind of had that attention, and that sense of connection. And then like there's some other women too. There's a woman that they focus on who like kind of lives in this like very dirty environment, I guess via like isolation, right? I guess just somebody who was like fed up with the whole thing, like they don't want to try to appeal to anybody, and they just sort of live in squalor. Is that the word? You know, and there's like a eating disorder thing about them as well, because they eat very disgustingly, and there's scenes like, you know, where they just kind of like run off to go throw up and stuff like that. So I guess like a concept about body dysmorphia, but body dysmorphia in my eyes always seemed to have came from from like the lens of like trying to appeal to people, right? It's like, oh, I have to be skinny because like skinny is what people find attractive, sort of thing, right? And there's a few other characters along the way as well, and then also like a lot of the men tend to be quite heinous, and in some sense lonely as well, no doubt, but the way they go about dealing with this loneliness is taking advantage of other people. Two of the men specifically, the video store owner and the man who owns the air doll to begin with. I mean, it's weird because obviously with him, he's trying to like find a sense of connection, but if you really wanted that, something real, like you wouldn't, you know, go out of your way to buy something that's emulating like a real person, right? Does that make sense? Because I mean, at the end of the day, despite him trying to like, you know, like take out his air doll for like these like dates or whatever, and you know, like talking about like stars and whatnot, being profound, he's not really making a connection with anybody or anything, you know? And at the end of the day, it is just about his like pleasure in a sense. And then same with the video store owner in a way too, because he's an older man, and initially it seems like he's almost quite content with his loneliness, but then there's a moment where he kind of cracks, and he realizes he's intensely lonely and he wants connection, and he imposes himself onto the protagonist in a very disgusting way, in a very selfish way. And then you have the other male character in the movie, the I guess like the love interest in a sense, the co-worker at the video store, and I guess like he's just more of like a kinder person as well, but that's because he's already kind of gone through his own little journey of like self-discovery and also like loss and heartbreak. There's a partner that gets brought up from time to time, and eventually you kind of learn that he lost his partner and he feels lonely as an effect of that. And in a moment of like a kind of like intimacy, I mean, it's weird because like now I kind of have to set it up, but there's a moment where the main character is like filing some stuff on the shelves of the video store, and she trips over and she like cuts herself, so she's like letting all this air out, and the coworker goes over to help her, and then obviously since she's like a blow up doll, it's like, oh well, like you can't really help her, like all you can do is like blow air into her. So he starts like, you know, well obviously like her like blow hole thing is like on her belly button, or like I guess where her belly button would be. So of course he like lifts up her shirt and he starts like blowing into her stomach, and it's quite erotic in a way, and like she almost seems to be getting a type of pleasure from it. But again, I think it's because at that moment she felt a kind of connection and somebody finally doing something in service of her, right, helping her in a way that wasn't selfish. And I mean, like he didn't like ask for anything after the fact. He's like, you know what, you need help in this moment, I'm going to help you. And you know, and that's all there was to it, right? Pure connection, I guess. And of course at the end of it, and after spending all this time with him, she finally wants to be of service to him, and sadly like the only way she feels like she can, you know, through like a sexual pleasure, but of course he never thought about it that way, and all he wanted to do was just, you know, well, service her, which is again like quite kind and pure. But then of course, like her being a blow up doll, she tries to service him, and she ends up killing him. There's kind of like a line at one point where he says he feels like her, or like he's one of her, and she takes that very literally, like meaning an air doll. But obviously what he means is like a sort of emptiness within him, a sadness within him. But yeah, so since she took it literally, she literally cuts him open and tries to blow air into him, and inadvertently kills him, right? So quite tragic in some ways. Like at the end of it, she was trying to finally do something for somebody else, and ends up hurting them, right? But no, I mean, like great movie, and I believe I've seen some other movies from this director before, but now I just want to see some more. He has a very I don't know, I guess like unique kind of perspective and take on things. But I feel like a lot of Japanese movies tend to sort of be like that, quite bizarre in concept, but they always tend to say something quite profound about humanity and love and I guess like relationships, the nature of relationships, and sexuality even. But great movie. And I think me talking about it right now is going to sound really cringy, because I'm almost talking about stuff I don't really understand. But I still enjoyed the movie, and I think what I got out of it is pretty much on par with what I was supposed to. Maybe I'm missing a handful of things, but I mean, regardless, I still thought it was very good. And then I watched Bad Guys 1 and 2. I've seen the first one before, and I liked it a lot, honestly. Perfect? I mean, probably not. But still very enjoyable. And then obviously with the both of them, just like that sort of like over animated animation, right? So like vivid in color, a lot of like action, even like small things as well. So, some of my favorite stuff in the movie is like a lot of the small quirks that the characters like tend to have. You know, like Wolf, with him being a bit more suave, he always does like his little like eyebrow raise and stuff like that. He's very George Clooney-esque. Like the small things, like the like collar pops and stuff like that, or like sleeve pops and stuff. But then also just like the very like, exaggerated like range of motion that all the characters go through, like all of their poses. Like, you know, like the intense like flailings and stuff like that. One of my favorite ongoing jokes is like any moment where they're kind of like in the air for a little bit, they'll like swim to like where they want to go. Wolf does it a handful of times. I think all the characters have a moment where they do it once, but Shark at the very beginning kind of has it whenever they go down the stairs in the car, and they're like all sort of like lifted up because like, you know, it's like a really high gap. But yeah, like they're all like kind of floating out of the car a little bit, and like Shark like starts like swimming back down to the car in order to grab onto it. Small stuff like that. These very like exaggerated range of motions that you could only ever get in animation, which is why I'm quite happy with this movie and the second one especially. I think the second one takes it to like a level above, in the same way like Spider-Verse to Across the Spider-Verse does it as well, where it's like, man, the first one is like crazy good in terms of animation, but then the second one just like keeps pushing it. And this is a DreamWorks thing too, and I think DreamWorks have kind of been on a roll with really going the distance with what animation can do in terms of color, in terms of character expression, in terms of action even as well. I mean, you'll think Puss in Boots, Wild Robot. There's a handful of other DreamWorks projects that have come out, but I'm not too happy with them. Namely Kung Fu Panda 4, namely I was gonna shit on Ruby Gillman, but Ruby Gillman's okay. But you know what I mean. Just like compared to like Puss in Boots, right? Compared to Wild Robot, compared to Bad Guys 1 and 2. Man, those movies like they just don't got it going on in the same way. I'm sorry to say. I mean, especially for Kung Fu Panda, because I'm a huge fan of Kung Fu Panda. Fucking love the first two. Okay, so I guess I'm not that big a fan. Maybe I'm just a fan of the first two. But Kung Fu Panda 4 from memory is very like over animated. It kind of in a good way, but whatever. I just think that one suffers like from a story angle. Oh, Dogman. Shout out to Dogman, right? Also over animated and has a nice story. There's a mosquito around me. But yeah, but Bad Guys 1 specifically, yeah, I really like it. And then it's cool too, again, just because you have like such a great set of characters as well. You have obviously Wolf and the whole crew, Tarantula, Piranha, Shark, and Snake. But then, you know, it's also this thing as well of like the sort of trope. It's like, oh, like the bad guy doesn't want to be the bad guy anymore, sort of thing. Or like also the judging book by its cover. Yeah, Shrek or like Wreck-It Ralph, sort of thing, right? So you can say like not wholly original, but characters really carry it. I do think the movie is very funny a lot of the time. Obviously, the animation is very good. But yeah, like I truly do think it's just like a very good character piece. I think like obviously Wolf himself is very interesting. Like Snake is interesting, and the whole crew. And that's another thing I liked about it too, is like the actual whole crew and like their dynamic is very nice, because like they are just like proper friends, which is sort of cool to see. Which is a contrast to the second one, or not a contrast, but like a what's the word? Like a mirror, I guess, or like an inverse mirror, because moving on to the second one now. With the second one, you have obviously like the main bad guy crew, but then you have like the rival crew that's like trying to bring them back into it. But they're the inverse to the bad guys, in that their crew isn't really built on like a friendship or anything. It's built on the leader, and the leader is essentially just using the other two. You know what I mean? I feel with like Fox, like of course like he talks about how like, oh, you know, like everybody in the crew like has a place, you know, like Tarantula's a hacker, the Piranha's like the wild card, the you know, Snake is like a pickpocket extraordinaire, and then, you know, Shark is like a disguise master. But in the other crew, all of them kind of do the same thing, more or less. But the leader of it, the Puma, she is just like the shot caller, basically. In the same way Wolf is kind of the shot caller, but she takes it to a different level, where she is just using these people like for her own like selfish and evil bad guy benefits. So it was interesting, that like contrasting dynamic between the crews, and how that becomes a bit more like apparent as the movie goes on. But another like ongoing joke in the first one that I like, aside from like the swimming thing, is also with like Wolf as well, and him being able to just like break out of anything like very easily. Like there's a couple parts where he's like handcuffed, and then of course he just like plays along with it. But the second he's able to like turn the tables with his silver tongue, he just like instantly like breaks out of like whatever lock he was in. And then also too, speaking of the lock stuff with Snake as well, they don't ever lock up Snake's like tail bit. Like they only put like the lock like around his, like, you know, what would be like his neck area, which is kind of funny. Oh yeah, but then other ongoing jokes, like Wolf using Snake as like a grappling hook, essentially. Yeah, just stuff like that is funny, visually as well, right? But then in the second one, yeah, like they use the swimming thing like a lot. They use that swimming thing quite often. It's very funny. It's very good. Like there's a lot of like visual comedy stuff. There's also like a lot of like writing fourth wall breaky. I just grabbed him. A lot of like fourth wall breaky stuff. Mr. Wolf like breaks the fourth wall constantly, which I don't find annoying because he's charming, unlike Deadpool. Fuck you, Deadpool. No, I'm joking. Deadpool's okay. Yeah, no, but the second one as well, just like very funny. But man, like on the animation scale, fucking crazy, man. I thought it was like kind of Jump the Shark-ish. It's like, oh man, like they're going into space, what the fuck? But that scene where they're like getting up to the rocket is crazy. I was impressed personally. But yeah, no, I thought it was very good. But then also this idea of like a reforming villain kind of thing, right? Because like, that's kind of what the whole movie is like based upon. And then again, like still carrying on this idea of like judging a book by its cover, despite the fact that they've served their time and, you know, they're like back into the world, and like they really are trying to be good and, you know, be normal people, the world still doesn't accept them. Very, very sadly, even though they saved the day in the first one pretty much, and then of course like they've like been quite like publicized, and like it's known that they're trying to reform. But yeah, like everybody around them still quite scared. Nobody's like giving them a chance, like whenever they're like job searching and stuff like that, which I guess is also like a sort of real world allegory kind of thing, just like a bunch of these like NEETs essentially, people like just like trying to look for jobs, but the job market being very bad and not accepting anybody, so whatever. But I mean, like, I don't know, that's kind of what I was thinking about. It's not necessarily what it's about, but it's what I was thinking in the backhand. Obviously it's more so about you know, former criminals trying to reform and like reintegrate into society, and society just not accepting them, right? No, so I thought all of that stuff was good too. And again, like, all of them, despite being, you know, these bad guys, they are quite pure and like generally happy people, and they want to connect, and, you know, they just find the connection within each other, but they also want other people to like them too. So, sort of in the same way it was in the Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, right? The lesson that he learns at the very end too, because there's a moment in the bad guys too where the Wolf is having a conflict. He has the conversation with Kitty Cat, and she tells him, like, you know, like all the stuff you've done, like the price you paid, and like the world still doesn't accept you, like why don't you just go back to being a bad guy, you know what I mean, because that's all they're going to see you as. But then of course with the lesson learned in the first one, it's like, well, you know, you can do that, yeah, but there is a kind of goodness in people, and people generally do want to be good, you know, somewhere deep down maybe, or perhaps that is just the nature of like Wolf and the gang. But then of course, like it's a dilemma for Wolf as well, because, you know, after he has that conversation, he goes back to the crew, and he's still very willing to like turn Kitty Cat and her crew in, but then he has that moment where he's discussing it with everybody else. He's like, I mean, yeah, we can still turn them in and stuff like that, but, you know, maybe we can like go through with the heist and just get all this money, and then we can go off and do whatever we want, you know what I mean, just do one more like thing and not have to worry about being bad guys or like living in the world with people anymore, you know. Which, I mean, it's kind of like the easy way out, right? But it seems almost like fair for them at least, right? Like in a world that isn't accepting of them, why not just like take what you can and then just like leave it alone, you know? But of course that's still bad by nature, so like the rest of the crew like sees it, and of course like they were all inspired by Wolf in the first movie, so they're quite committed to this idea of just being good, again, like despite how hard it is. So I thought all of that was very nice, and again, just like the camaraderie with the whole crew, I love a lot. And in this one too, I mean, the first one I think focuses a bit more on Wolf and Snake specifically. In this one, I like how, you know, whenever they're in space and they're doing their plan, they have a moment where they kind of like split up between each other. So it's Snake and Piranha, and Shark and Spider, but all of them have a kind of just like little, what's the word, like banter between each other, and that's something that fucking Wolf says as well. Like he literally says that he's like, oh, okay, enough with the banter, so kind of like fourth wall breaky, and he has a joke about that in the first one too. And then also the I think I hate you joke that Snake has, like he says it in the first one to a tarantula, and then he says it to Piranha in this one. No, but movie, honestly, overall very good, and I enjoyed it immensely. Man, that was kind of long on the movie stuff. Sorry. Holy shit. That's probably the longest I've ever gotten it. But yeah, TV shows. Still watching Martin, and I finished up Tojima Wants to Be Kamen Rider. I got to, I think I'm in like season 3 right now of Martin, and I think it's in a pretty good spot right now too, because like Martin had just lost his job at the as like the radio DJ talk show. So then he kind of goes into this like depression. He doesn't really know what direction his life is going in, so he just decides to kind of get away. So he's having like a, you know, midlife crisis essentially. And then in the midst of this, like it's also double hard for Gina, just because like, you know, like they were engaged, and he's like kind of turning his back on that too for his own like self-discovery, you know what I mean? It's quite selfish in some ways, but again, like Gina's kind of his rock, and Gina's trying to help him through it. So she's quite noble in that way, and caring. But then of course at times it is a bit much for her, because she does have a dilemma as well where she tries to go away. or you know, she's trying to like give the relationship space because she wants Martin to like be a better self. But yeah, yes, but you know, so I got to that part in the story basically. But that's when the sound clip for the Kendrick Lamar song, the PMP 1.5, comes in at the very beginning. The Gina, I'm as out, you know, I'm going through something right now. I told you that, you know. Yeah, but that comes in around this Martin arc. So whenever I finally heard it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's the part in the song. But then obviously it's very obvious because like Kendrick Lamar, especially in like Overly Dedicated, especially in Overly Dedicated, he does talk a lot about Martin specifically, or like even like interviews and stuff like that from those like Good Kid, Mad City days and stuff like that. He'll talk a lot about Martin, how much he watched Martin, how much he likes Martin. Something I want to bring up actually, whenever he lost his job at the you know, at the radio station, he throws the trash can at the window and he says radio. But then it's funny because obviously that's a reference to Do the Right Thing, which he was in. But in Do the Right Thing, whenever Mookie throws the trash can at the window, he says hate, and then obviously that's a theme of the movie, love and hate. You know, so I just thought it was funny that he kind of gets it wrong. I don't know if it was like intentional or not for him to get it wrong, or if it just kind of happened by accident. But I mean, regardless, interesting. Anyways, but yeah, so that's Martin. Still watching Martin. It's got like 5 seasons. I'm on season 3, episode like 7. So still pretty early on in it, but still very funny and enjoyable. And they're also developing a kind of relationship between Tommy and Pam. So see how that goes. But yeah, Tojima wants to be Kamen Rider. Finished it. Light disappointment, honestly. Still enjoyable, no doubt. But after the arc with the gangster guy, and it's like, man, like they're finally gonna give him like something to do. You know what I mean? And for the rest of it, they just kind of treat him like a joke, honestly. I don't know. And then as well, like not being able to like kill people, like I don't know why anime specifically is sometimes so scared of that, just like killing off characters. Fuck it, man. Like, again, not that all tragedy needs death, and not like, you know, to make a point of something, death is necessary, but for certain stories, like killing off some characters, especially when things are as kind of like gruesome and bloody as the show can be sometimes, it's kind of necessary, because like they do like a sacrifice scene where his like henchmen like sacrifice themselves so he can get away from Shocker. So the henchmen sacrifice themselves, and you know, they say, oh well, you know, like you were just like such a good boss to us, we want to finally do something good for you, and that's quite nice and quite noble. And I'm thinking, you know what, these guys are like technically bad guys, they're gangsters, and obviously like now their boss is like a part of Shocker, but they all have like a humanity to them, and they're all people. So I thought, you know what, having them sacrifice themselves for something they believe in is quite nice, and it falls in the themes of Kamen Rider as well, like themes of humanity. But then they sort of throw it away because then Batman revives them, or you know, like saves them like at the inch of their lives, and makes them into members of Shocker. And I'm like, you know, again, just like eye roll, right? But then it's like the whole dilemma of the boss like not wanting to hurt them because like they're his you know, they're his boys essentially. But then of course he like hits them hard enough and like it unbrainwashes them. So again, like kind of cheap. I think it would have, I mean, again, the death thing, it's either just kill them off and give the boss like a real fucking reason to want to start going against Shocker because he personally lost something to them despite looking up to them for so long. Again, just like a redemption. But then whenever he goes to fight Batman, and this is where I say they treat him like a fucking joke, because he goes to fight Batman and like gets his ass kicked. And then again too, that's another moment where you could have used it as like a point of like tragedy as well, where it's like, you know, he's finally realized a kind of purpose in his life, and he's willing to sacrifice himself for something, and the tragedy comes from him still not being strong enough, you know what I mean, despite believing in it so much and despite going through a hardship to become strong enough to even get here to begin with. I mean, again, they just sort of throw it away in my opinion. So I was disappointed in that. that whole Batman fight, I mean, like, despite how good it is, again, I feel like a lot of the characters kind of go through you know, just like they're just there on the offside. Tackle has a bit to do, and that's nice. V3 and Riderman and the Shocker girlfriend, they barely get anything to do. And I mean, again, like, it's weird because, like, obviously with V3 and man, there's some like wasps over here fucking scaring me. Obviously with V3 and Riderman, this point of revenge and like their plot against Shocker is intensely personal to them because they lost their grandparents to Shocker, but they barely do any of the fighting. I don't know. So I was kind of upset about that. But that's the thing too. It's either like you give them Batman to fight, since Batman is the one that killed their grandparents, and then you give Tojima Spider-Man, since Spider-Man was also going through a whole training arc trying to discover what it meant to be a human. And that sort of falls on the wayside as well, man, because then Spider-Man shows up at the very end and he's like, I guess sequel bait, pretty much. But you should have had that moment where Spider-Man and Batman have a rematch, essentially. But that doesn't happen. Tojima just fights Batman and defeats him. I mean, that being said, it was still good just because like it was satisfying. It's like, yes, like Kamen Rider beats the bad guy, but then also there's like minor bits of fan service. V3 and Riderman do a double rider kick, and that was cool to see. And then obviously as well, Tojima literally embodies Kamen Rider at one point, and they start playing the original Kamen Rider theme song, and I thought, oh man, this is really cool. And then of course he was like putting belt to ass on Batman, and then I'm like, man, I really hope he ends this with a rider kick, and then he ends it with a rider kick. So all in all, really fun anime. I just need to kind of get back into watching anime shit, but this is a very good one to sort of get me back into it. But that was all the TV. Music, I listened to a lot of Kaneko Ayano. I feel like I briefly mentioned her last month, but this month I was just listening to her a bit more intensely. Mainly A Towel Blanket is Peaceful and Shukusai. Both of them the Hitori Deni versions, which, I mean, Hitori Deni just means by itself, automatically, naturally. And then I guess like for a music comparison, just like acoustic, because that's basically what they are. It's more so like her raw voice with like minimal like instrumentals, mainly just guitar. Because like a lot of the other versions of the songs are quite like expansive and more like rock pop-ish. But I prefer the simplicity of these Hitori Deni versions. But yeah, honestly, just like all the way through both those albums, like intensely enjoyable. And then also the live version of, I think it's Shukusai, she does the live version on, or it's like a live version of different songs from various albums. But still, very good. Love her voice a lot. She had a single that came out recently, I believe. And then I also think there's like a rebrand with her. Like she's like making the band a bit more prominent, which is really cool, I think. But yeah, I just need to keep track of her because I like her music a lot. It's always quite, I mean, it's weird. Like the actual songs themselves, like the normal versions, they have a kind of like happiness to them. But then the acoustic versions are rather sad. I mean, specific songs were sad regardless, but the acoustic versions hit a lot harder. And even acoustic versions that were original versions that were happy, the acoustic versions bring out like a latent sadness to them. Or even then, like sometimes they do sort of just like play on the happiness aspects, and it does sound quite joyful. Despite it just being acoustic, but still. So shout out to Kaneko Ayano. Listening to Caribou, I guess producer type of guy. But I was just listening to the debut project, Start Breaking My Heart, the special edition version. But personal favorites were People Eating Fruit, Brandon, Lemon Yogurt, If Assholes Could Fly, This Place Would Be an Airport, and Mammals versus Reptiles. People Eating Fruit, I think, is my personal favorite throughout the whole album. Mammals versus Reptiles, I thought was really funny because like it's a nice sounding song, but the only comment on it is just somebody saying reptiles FTW. Reptiles for the win, or you know, me personally, like I assume it's for the win because it is called mammals versus reptiles, so it implies a kind of competition. So there needs to be a winner. So I just think it's funny that the guy said reptiles FTW, or it could just be reptiles fuck the world. You know, who knows? Yeah, but very good project. I mean, very like industrial, but for like a lot of it. There's like minor like chanting bits as well, which give it this like very melodic tone. Quite like happy though overall, which I sort of like. Some of the tracks are a bit mysterious, like Lemon Yogurt is what I have noted, is that it's mysterious sounding. And then If Assholes Could Fly, it sort of has these like light like breakcore elements almost. A lot of like drum and snare. But yeah, so very good project. That's Caribou, Start Breaking My Heart. Humpback, which is a J-rock band. I only listened to one of their tracks. I just wanted to shout them out. It's called Lily, all caps. But yeah, so it's the opener from their album Ninjen Nanosa. But honestly, like a lot of J-rock tends to end up being like this, for me at least. But it's always just very fun, very energetic, very lively. And then, you know, instrumentally, like very like not sporadic, but again, just like energetic. Quite happy sounding typically, which I like. So shout out to them. That's Humpback. I was listening to Emotion Heap, specifically the track Just For Now, which I'm familiar with it because of a sample, or you know, because this song is sampled by Sewer Slut for one of their tracks. I forgot the track off the top of my head now, but Sewer Slut does in fact sample this. But I mean, even then, just like hearing the track, I understand why people were kind of, or like why this artist is talked about quite a bit, especially like in the pop electronic sphere. Like that's like a genre of music that I tend to quite like a lot. But I never really listened to a lot of the influencers of the genre. I mean, the fucking mosquito. So yeah, so again, like Emotion Heap, I've heard the name tossed around a lot, and I'm just surprised that a song that found me was a song I was kind of familiar with. So that just means I need to keep listening to them. But then again, like I think I mentioned Aphex Twin at some point. I know Aphex Twin is like a huge person in the electronic genre. Even Bjork, which I'm gonna talk about because she's the one who I listened to the most this month. Bjork mentions Aphex Twin. Yule mentions Aphex Twin, of course, in the song Aphex Twin Flame. So I know Aphex Twin to be like a huge like influencer within the electronic genre. But then also Clamps Casino for like a more kind of modern electronic genre sort of like influencer type or producer type. But then yeah, so Danny Brown and an artist called Underscores. The track Copycat was one that I really liked this month. Danny Brown, again, like he's another artist that I really got to get into. I remember the first time I heard him, it was on a Gorillaz track, and it's like, man, I don't really know about this guy. He sounds kind of like Yelpy. I don't know, but I mean, especially from the projects that he was working on with for, JPEG Mafia, I've gotten to like know his music a bit better, and I like Danny Brown a lot. I just need to really dive into his discography. I've like gotten into a few tracks and I've liked what I've heard, but I haven't really dissected it all that much. So I'm gonna have to at some point. But then also Underscores. I mean, it's funny because I was listening to an interview from them this morning, and they also mentioned Emotion Heap. So I was like, oh, okay, there you go, like instant connection. But the track Copycats, very good. I don't even know if I mentioned it, but with the movie stuff. But then again, just with it being like Trans Visibility Day on the 31st, it was. But Underscores is a trans artist, and then I also rewatched. I saw the TV Glow. There you go. Yeah, again, like trans story. I feel like I understood it a bit better now. I definitely fucking hit my head like 20 million times because I was, again, I think when I first talked about the movie, it was through this lens of me not really understanding it, but me finally getting it at the very, very end. And, despite me not being able to truly ever understand the kind of trans experience, I got this glimpse into it, and I got how it can be kind of horrifying to live as and to be someone you're not, right? Like if I'm just gonna relate it to a more like kind of cisgendered type of thing, you know, and how kind of scary that can be to not be you, you know. Yeah, so I mean, again, just shout out to Trans Visibility Day, shout out to I Saw the TV Glow, and shout out to Underscores, who I want to check out a bit more now, honestly, because well, that track specifically was really good, and then also just like some of the stuff they were talking about in this interview, I was like sort of like digging, so I was like, okay, I'll have to check her out. And then yeah, I'll sing pretty quick. Want to shout out JPEG Mafia, because I was listening to Offline a lot this month as well. I was already familiar with it, and it might be my favorite JPEG Mafia project. Huge fan of End Credits. Obviously some of the hits on this one are obvious. I think Trust is a big one on this album. What is it? Tired, Nervous, and Broke is a big one. But then for me personally, my favorites are Dikembe, Flame Emoji, and Ghost of Ranking Dread. Fucking rocks. I like JPEG Mafia the most whenever he's doing these more like melodic sort of instrumentals. Like obviously like a lot of like the harder trap stuff is really good too, and these 3 tracks have the like, you know, like heavier trap, but whenever he's able to transition into these like softer like melodies and like softer instrumentals, like kind of like lo-fi stuff, but then like rapping on top of it, that shit is where it's at. Like I think a lot of his communist slow jams, but then also stuff on All My Heroes Are Cornballs, and then some of my favorite tracks on what's the album called? His newest one. Why am I blanking on it? I'm disappointed. I feel like it's like there on the tip of my tongue, but yeah. So think on All My Heroes Are Cornballs, like Free the Frail, or for the new album, one of my favorite ones is obviously Allah, which is like a bonus track on the main album. But then even on the main album, what is it? It's essentially the closer, I'm pretty sure. It sucks that I'm blanking on it right now. But again, like the idea that I'm trying to get across is like, obviously JPEG Mafia is good when like his instrumentals are like very sporadic and he's being quite braggadocious, but whenever he's being a bit softer and you know, just like kind of like light rapping, but having like the sort of like instrumentals do some like this kind of like heavy work, being a bit more like melodic, I think that's where like he's kind of perfect in my opinion. But yeah, I listened to a lot of Bjork this month. I was already familiar with Debut for the most part, so I'm just gonna kind of gloss by it a bit. But obviously, Venus is a Boy, great song. But my favorites have always been Like Someone in Love and the Anchor song. Both of those were a favorite whenever I listened to it the first time, and they're favorites still now. But then on this re-listen, I really liked Crying, and I really liked There's More to Life Than This. It's weird because I think most of the album is quite like dancey as well, quite soft. But with Like Someone in Love and the Anchor song, those songs are quite sad, like mixed in this. And an Anchor song, I just like the lyrics. The you know, I live by the ocean, and during the night I jump into it and then sink to the bottom and drop my anchor. And this is where I'm staying. This is my home. It's very simple, but I don't know. I guess the like idea like implies a type of like independence, or like a love for her own independence, I guess, and you know, kind of knowing herself and being true to like where she wants to be. I don't know. That's kind of what I get out of it, and you know, it's quite sad because it almost seems isolating in a way. Again, like when you think Anchor song, or when I think Anchor song, and especially the instrumentals on it, it's like these foghorns. So I think it's almost like, again, like saying I live by the ocean. and like hearing the foghorns, so you think, you know, isolated, like beach town sort of thing, right? Or you know, something like that, or even then just like living like on a lighthouse type of thing, away from everything else. So I guess that's where the idea of the independence comes from, but then also this idea of like isolation, because then I think those two themes are super reoccurring with Bjork specifically, and then especially going into Vespertine, it becomes this idea of like wanting a connection. But I guess I'll come back to that. But with Post, yeah, the intro is Army of Me, which is very different from everything else on debut, which is quite cool to hear. And I like the song, but then obviously my favorites are Hyper Ballad, Modern Things, It's Oh So Quiet, and Enjoy. And I mean, those tracks are basically like all back to back. And that's kind of my problem with this album. It's like, I enjoy it, yes, but this first half to me is so good, and I'm not too invested in the second half, unfortunately. You've Been Floating Again is good though. I do like that. It has like the soft strings and whatnot. But I don't know, something about Hyper Ballad specifically. Again, like it comes to that idea, like an Anchor song, you know, with her saying like she lives by the ocean. In this, like she's saying that she lives like near a cliff, and she imagines like, you know, throwing stuff off of it, and even, you know, to an extent throwing herself off of it, before this like potential partner even like wakes up to kind of realize anything. So I mean, I guess in my eyes, again, still talking about her isolation, or like independence, but like having a type of independence and individuality even within a relationship, right? Like not having to be tied to somebody else, which is quite interesting. And then sort of the same in Enjoy as well. I wish what is it? Like she says like I wish I could stay here. I wish I could love you. But I'm only in this to enjoy. You know, again, I guess talking about a type of like independence, like wanting to keep living her life on her terms. I think any Bjork fans can correct me on that, but this is just what I'm like picking up from like lyrics alone for the most part. Maybe it's worth actually like listening to other people talk about like the meanings of it. But I mean, again, I've said it before, like some of my favorite stuff tends to be like my own personal like takeaways, but then also, of course, you can't like exist in a bubble if you want to grow and learn. So maybe soon, but I'm still kind of holding like Bjork like close to myself and like what I'm thinking about her, you know what I mean, before I start looking towards other people and seeing what they say, which is kind of hypocritical of me to say, because especially for Vespertine, since it was my favorite album from her so far that I've listened to, and again, I think just because I was so invested, it did encourage me to look at what other people were saying. So I did look at what other people were saying for Vespertine specifically, but for Debut and Post, I'm kind of keeping those to myself for right now. And then same with Homogenic. Honestly, this one, it didn't grab me the same way any of the other albums did. I still think it's incredibly interesting instrumentally. I think every single track has like such a bizarre like thing going on, but like grabbing in a weird way. Like, you know, it grabs me. But yeah, my personal favorite is All Is Full of Love. There's a like sound bit in there that reminds me of Sun Lux a little bit. The track from Sun Lux is called Alternate Worlds. But like the it sounds like a string like moving really fast. So it sounds I don't know how you would describe it. It sounds like haunting in a weird way though. Very like sporadic and anxious maybe. But like obviously on a Homogenic, I think the standout is Hoga, right? Joga. I mean, shit, good track. Certainty. Yes, a state of emergency, basically. State of emergency. Honestly, something I'm gonna have to get out the way real quick is Bjork, to me, just has a really fucking good voice, and I think that's why I enjoy listening to her so much. But then also the lyric stuff, it sounds super poetic, it just grabs me a lot. And I mean, with Vespertine specifically, the thing that I wrote was just a quality all the way through, very sensual and sensuous, instrumentally interesting, with lyrics that create images. Again, quite simple, because I feel like this album, more so than anything, finally starts to like dig deep into her ideas of like love and intimacy, like sex, but then also still talking about of kind of independence, and wanting to preserve that in ways that she can, but then also still wanting to feel connected to somebody else, or you know, not even to anybody else specifically, in some way specifically, yeah, but then also just to people. Yeah, but like, you know, so the opener is a Hidden Place, which is just interesting instrumentally, like really grabbing. Again, like as the opener, like shit, I was hooked. And then right after, it's like so bizarre because it's almost a contrast, because then you go into Cocoon, and Cocoon is so like bizarre, almost like haunting in some ways, but intensely intimate. And then obviously, man, like it grabbed me again because of her voice and the instrumentals. It sounds, again, like you're like really close to her and she's like whispering all this stuff to you, which is basically what the song is kind of about. It's about a moment between like her and a partner, of like sexual encounter, basically. A lot of the lyrics are quite sensual, quite horny even. But I mean, shit, it again, like it makes an image of like two people like feeling intensely close together. I mean, like a lot of the lyrics literally are like quite sexual though. Like whenever I first heard the song, I was like, man, that's like really good. It's like a love song, and obviously it's a bit more than a love song. I mean, I guess in a sense it literally is a love song. But yeah, like whenever I started listening to the lyrics, I'm like, oh, okay, damn, she's kind of freaky. And then the thing that I looked up, because there was a lyric that confused me, was the like a train of pearls, but somebody said that's basically like a illusion for cum. You know, since like cum is kind of like pearlescent white. Again, I was just like, damn, didn't even think about it like that. But again, with a lot of lyrics, he slips inside. Again, like imagery, like revolving around sex. Who would have known that a boy like him would like caress me tightly? Would enter me lightly, restoring my blisses. You know what I mean? But just lyrics like that, where like on the surface, like again, like they're very poetic, but they're quite literal, I guess. But very good. And honestly, this whole song, I think it might be my favorite on the album, maybe, but I do have a lot of favorites on this album. But then it's weird because again, like another like contrast, because it switches up. It's Not Up to You is quite happier, and in my opinion, like a bit more upbeat, especially considering how like intense and well, I mean, just like intense Cocoon was. But It's Not Up to You is sounds a bit happier. But then again, also kind of commentary on this individuality she has, right? Like she's one of the lyrics that I like is how do I master the perfect day? There's in one of, I had to write it down just so I didn't butcher it, but in one of Savannah Brown's poems, if I've ever made something beautiful, one of her lines is so this is how I'll spend the impossible day. But the how do I master the perfect day is it kind of made me think about that. Because with this song specifically, It's Not Up to You, it could be, again, her referring to this partner, that the partner doesn't define her own happiness as an individual, but then with like, how do I master the perfect day? I guess it's also not up to you as an individual how you like perceive the world, or you know, literally like you do kind of like perceive the surroundings and stuff like that, but you also in some ways have to like give up yourself a little bit and just like take things as they come, right? Because I guess like the It's Not Up to You thing is more talking about the world and how the world responds to the things that you're doing, right? Like the world is kind of uncaring, so if you're able to just like go with the flow, I guess you'll kind of end up being a much happier person, a much like more whole and individual. Yeah, but then obviously like the closing of "It's Not Up to You" that leads directly into the track "Undo." The lyric is "There's too much clinging to peak. There's too much pressure." Again, like if you're able, because that's what "Undo" is about as well. It's about like giving yourself up in order to like be a bit more happy. But "Undo" is also probably one of my one of my favorites on this album as well. Because like the opening stuff is just it's not meant to be a strife. It's not meant to be a struggle uphill. You're trying too hard. Surrender. And then just other lyrics. I'm praying to be in a generous mode. The kindness kind to share me. And then the last lyric I wrote was, if you're bleeding, undo. If you're sweating, undo. If you're crying, darling, undo. Obviously, she sings it a bit more beautifully. I was just kind of reading it out loud. Again, but like beautiful song. I love her voice on it so much. But again, those lyrics, and then, you know, just the use of the word undo. Again, just talking about giving yourself up in very small ways, or at least like the ways you can, and still be able to live with yourself in order to continue existing and being happy, I guess. Or at least like being able to live with the kind of kindness for yourself, because, you know, life itself isn't meant to be hard. Relationships aren't meant to be difficult, but they end up being difficult because of the amount of pressure that we put onto them, right? And the amount of stress that we put onto just living our lives, and, you know, the stress that we put on other people for our sake of happiness, and maybe even the pressures that people put onto us for their happiness, right? But again, if you're like willing to let go of certain things, then, you know, you can move past and be better. Pagan Poetry. I think this is the most popular song on the album, and it's good, but it doesn't resonate with me in the same way a lot of the other songs do. But still, Bjork's voice on this is very good. So Frosty, it's like an interlude, but then this instrumental kind of music box motif like comes up in tracks later on, so it's kind of important. Aurora is a slower track on the album. It just sounds very nice, in my opinion. An Echo, a Stain. This is also sort of like an interlude track to me. It's sort of light on lyrics, and I'm unsure what the purpose of it is entirely. But instrumentally, I think it's quite interesting still, and it's like sort of sinister in a way. But I do like the way it leads into one of my other favorites, "Sun in My Mouth." I think this one might actually. No, it's too tough to pick a favorite from this one. But this one is one of my other favorite ones. But it also has like the music box kind of motif. But apparently, when I was researching this, it's entirely based on a poem by an author called E.E. Cummings. The poem is called Crepuscule. Crepuscule. But yeah, Bjork's voice on this is amazing as always. Again, instrumentally very good, but the lyric that I like the most, or the line that I like the most, and the poem is worth reading too. I read through it, and it has that like kind of what do you call it? I guess like a framing to it that's like quite abstract. But a lot of the lines are quite good. Well, I mean, like, you know, if you just listen to the song is basically just her singing the poem. But the line that I like a lot, and it's kind of the closer, is will I complete the mystery of my flesh? Again, like talking about, I guess, like a type of like autonomy and individuality, but then also trying to like discover yourself in your body. Again, because like a lot of this album is quite sensual. So just like talking about like bodily pleasure, right? But I feel like that's a large part too, because like I guess it's one thing to like master your mind, but then it's another thing to like master your person, your own being. Yeah, so I like that song a lot. Heirloom is another really good track. And then this one too, I'm not too positive on my interpretation of it. Like the only thing I have really written down is just like a love between family, because she talks about her mother and she talks about her son, and then also like herself in relation to the two of them. But then also with the track being called Heirloom, obviously an heirloom is like a kind of artifact that like stays within a family and you pass it down. So like there is like a like familial type of theme within this track. But yeah, very good. Harm of Will. This is also one that has like the music box instrumental stuff. There's lyrics to it and a kind of like sinister undertone, but I have no clue what it means really. So I'll pass on that, but it's still quite purposeful, I think. I don't know, because I think every single track leads perfectly into the next one, and I think that's why this is my favorite album from Bjork that I've heard so far. Is everything seems intentional, which is usually how I kind of value my like favorite albums. Like albums that I consider to be my favorites are all albums that like no song like exists within itself. Each song's purpose is to say something about the larger themes of the album, but then also to bring you into the next song as what's the word, as like seamlessly as possible. But yeah, so the closer, Unison, I think this one might be my favorite. But instrumentally, I like this one a lot. There's like a bit in the song where like it almost sounds like a weird like Bomberman thing. I don't know, quite like classical, just like nice. I'm trying to think about the moment now where it plays, but it plays like in between moments. Like I think whenever she has the lyric "I thrive best hermit style," that's when you hear this little like like sort of noise. But it happens like twice in the song, but it's nice both times. But yeah, but just lyrics that I like a lot. I will grow my own private branch of this tree. You gardener, you discipliner, domestically. I can obey all your rules and still be. But whenever she says "be" the second time, I feel like it's almost like one of those things. Well, I guess just like in anything where like it sort of sounds like one thing as they're saying it, or like it can sound like two different things when they're saying it. But whenever she says, I can obey all your rules and still be, comma, be, it almost sounds like she's saying like still be, me. Again, like the song's called Unison, and a large part of the album is finally, again, like still being independent, but looking for connections and companionship with other people. So with this, she's kind of saying, like I can still kind of be myself despite you being like my partner, and I, if we're in a relationship, we have all these rules within a relationship, but I can still be me. I can still be myself. You know what I mean? We're still individuals at the end of this. And then obviously like, the reoccurring line is the I never thought I would compromise. Like let's unite tonight, embrace you tight. Let's unite. But that's like the chorus essentially. But I guess that kind of goes back to, I guess what I said there. I mean, like I never thought I would compromise a sense of kind of like individuality for the sake of relationship, but now I'm kind of realizing the importance of relationships and the importance of, I guess, like romantic relationships specifically. So despite any kind of hardships and struggles within relationships, we'll still try to find a way to embrace each other. And I think that's quite a nice way to like end the album off, honestly. And honestly, just like, again, like the build up from all these albums and then to coming to this like kind of realization like by the fourth album, I think is really, really cool. Thematically and like kind of cinematically too, if you're thinking about it like in terms of like a movie. But then yeah, one of my other lyrics too that I like is I thrive best hermit style, but now I can't do this on my own. But yeah, the rest of the line is like I thrive best hermit style, with a beard and a pipe, with a parrot on both sides. Again, like talking about this like weird kind of like pirate nature of her life, again, because pirates are kind of like individuals, right? But then it also goes back to something like Anchor Song or even Hyper Ballad, where like she feels connected to like the ocean, and I guess the ocean being like so vast, you know what I mean? Like you can go like anywhere, like by yourself, and you don't necessarily need anybody because you have the whole world, like at your disposal essentially. And you're able to traverse it however you want to, and I guess like in this sense, like the ocean is like the metaphor for life. But again, like I feel like the deeper I dig into this, the more I'm like finding, but then also just like how much I relate to it personally, and how much, or at least like how much it resonates with me and like my kind of way of thinking. Yeah, but then she says, but now I can't do this on my own, and then it goes back into the chorus. I never thought I would compromise. Let's unite tonight. Just It is great. I love this album so much. I literally rinsed it so many times throughout the month. Yeah, just listening to it so intensely. But honestly, great month. Great month. I was quite happy throughout the whole month. I feel like there was like maybe like one, two, like I don't know, like, well, honestly, handful of days where I felt that, I don't know, like sense of dread. But I don't know. For the most part, I was just, I guess, what other people would kind of describe as happy. I feel like something I'm going to talk about regarding my birthday is going to make it sound like I actually wasn't very happy, but no, like I guess just like dollars to donuts sort of thing. I was quite happy throughout the entire month, and I'm very happy about that fact. Just happy about being happy. No, but that's it for this one. That was all of it. That was all of it. Very surprised. I think this is the longest one so far. And I could have made it longer if I talked about my birthday stuff, but I'll save that for something else. But yeah, and then also talked about the book yesterday. I'm reading more books at the moment. I really want to get into reading, but I don't think I'll ever do it as a part of like this monthly recap thing. I think keeping this monthly recap to just movies, music, and TV shows is better, because I could talk about games as well, but a lot of the games that I'm playing at the moment, I mean, I don't know, you can't really talk about it. Like I'm still playing Rivals, I'm still playing Fortnite because I'm a fucking idiot. No, like I'm literally only playing Fortnite because I want to get the achievements and I want to get the platinum, because it's very easy to get platinum on that. It's just very fucking tedious. But that's besides the point. And then Marvel Rivals already perfected, but I'm just playing it because it's my like only multiplayer game at the moment. I mean, I could be playing Battle Royale in Fortnite, but I'm not really too into Battle Royales. I do like playing BR for Fortnite whenever I'm like drunk and I'm playing with my brother. That's like probably the only time I'll play BRs, because then it does become quite fun. And actually, well, now that I'm thinking about it, Fortnite in general is quite fun. But I think only when you're playing with people. I can't play that shit by myself. Like whenever I'm playing by myself, I'm playing the Save the World shit again for the achievements, because that's the mode that has the achievements in it, and I just want the achievements. But again, very tedious. And then Rivals, yeah, me and my brother. New season came out. Me and my brother, we did our placement matches, and I think we got Plat 1. Last year we ended Diamond, whichever one's higher, basically. But this one we landed on the one behind where we ended last season, but we're at like 1, so that means like we just have to win a few more games to get back into the rank that we were, which I think we'll do, but that'll probably be closer to the half season maybe. But yeah, so we just went ahead and knocked that out. We lost 2 matches. Honestly, the 2 matches we lost were to bullshit because we had people on our team throwing, basically. And then there's one game specifically where I did kind of bad, like I won't deny it, but my tank was doing just as bad as me, because I don't play DPS too often, but this was one of the matches where I was playing DPS, and my team was getting bad at me, and it's like, okay, I understand I'm not doing that great, but this is the first round, and they didn't push the cart all the way, so we're not doing bad. I'm not doing good, but like, you know, there's still like room to win this. But man, they did not want to fucking hear it. Even though my tank had the same KD as me at the time, like the tank wasn't getting no shit, and the tank started talking shit on me, and it's like, bro, let's not pull up the scoreboard and let's not pretend like the scoreboard doesn't exist. And I was like, hey, you know what? I'm just gonna switch to support because that's obviously what y'all want. I switched over to Mantis because like nobody else was switching, so I was like, okay, we'll just do like 2 tank, 1 DPS, and 3 support. And then I switched to Mantis, and they're like, oh, what the fuck are you doing? Get off Mantis. And I'm like, all right. So what the fuck do I want then? And then I ended up like pulling the stats back up. I mean, again, it's easier to play support or whatever, but my healing was like just as good as the other person that ended up swapping healer in 1 round as Mantis. And it's like, okay, so again, but people don't look at the scoreboard. Like they like kind of lose one match and like they just want to find somebody to blame, and unfortunately that time I was just the person to blame. And it's weird too, because like I don't ever really do like that bad, but just that game specifically, I just wasn't really finding my place as well. And it's also a problem too, me playing DPS, and then it was also on the new map. I don't know. I think DPS is like my worst role. Not because I'm bad at positioning necessarily, but because I'm kind of bad at optimizing like combos. I feel like a lot of DPS characters have like combos you need to utilize, and since I was playing Psylocke, they made Psylocke slightly easier just because they gave her 1 extra damage. But it really is about hitting that like shuriken dash combo. But again, since I don't play DPS that often, I don't have a lot of time to practice it. So maybe it was kind of dumb on me to try to practice it in comp, but at the same time, might as well try to practice where like things are actually interesting, you know what I mean? And where I'm actually gonna kind of like get value and like be tested. Because when I do get a chance to finally play Psylocke in like quick match, it's either everybody logs DPS and it's like, okay, well I guess I'm playing support or tank now, or I do get a chance to play DPS and I do pretty good, but that's because like sometimes in quick match you just get matches where people just aren't that good, and you kind of stomp. So it doesn't feel good to play especially decent whenever you're like stomping the other team, and of course it doesn't feel good to like get beat down when you're trying. So I'm trying to find that middle ground. I'm trying to find where I can be good while having a kind of competition with myself and with the other team, because that's the only way I'm going to get better, right? But yeah, I guess just like not good enough for what my team needed, which is why I swapped. Again, like at the end of the day, I did swap, and I swapped to somebody that I'm actually competent with. So I was able to pull it back, and we ended up winning. So again, like I don't understand what all like the negativity and complaining was for when we ended up winning. And again, of course, like nobody says anything because we won, but everybody wants to complain when you start losing. So fuck that. But anyways, yeah, playing that. I was playing Tomb Raider for a little bit. Because I played the other 2, but this third one, I don't know, it's just not grabbing me. So I'm kind of taking a break from it, but I think I'll just finish it just to finish it. But then also I kind of fucked myself a bit because then I started another game. I started playing Mirror's Edge Catalyst, and I'm enjoying that for what it is. So, but yeah, anyways, that was March. Take care.